Hello and welcome to Two Words Wolves Pod. I'm Ryan Eichten. With me is Jonah Maves of Zone Coverage. Jonah, how you doing?
Doing wonderful, especially after an exciting game 2. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Yeah, exciting times out in Denver. I was there for games 1 and 2. I am finally home. Glad to be home. Obviously enjoyed the work I got to do out there, but you know, I've said this, I think on this, a sign of a good trip, whether it's work, vacation, whatever, is when you're ready to be home. Like that's how you know like things went well. If you're like yearning to stay, that's when it's like, okay, I didn't get enough done. But yeah, a little bit of sunburn out at the Rockies game on Sunday between games. And then after the win, ready to be home.
Good issue to have.
Absolutely, but although maybe the dermatologist doesn't agree there. All right, let's dive into game 2. Let's start with where the game started, with just a horrendous first quarter. And I will admit, and I don't know if people will disagree, I kind of doubt it. I thought they were cooked. Thought it was done, wrap it up, finito, book the Cancun trip. Like I thought it was early after the first quarter, I thought it was done. And that, anytime you feel about this way about this team, it's really ever since they traded for Rudy, like every time you do that, you know they're coming. They'll make you look silly, and we'll talk about like the flip side of it where they don't carry the momentum, but every time you doubt them, they make you look silly. And I thought this game was the perfect encapsulation of that.
Yeah, I think mentally after all these Denver games, I'm trying to think of how many crazy comebacks we need to balance between the Memphis series to all the Denver series, because I mean, big runs happen in the NBA at this point. It's going to happen. There's crazy comebacks. A 15-point lead is nothing, but the volume that we've had of watching the Timberwolves over the last 5-6 years and how many comeback laden games there's been, it's just absurd.
Yeah, and they've now played the Nuggets 30 times in the last 4 seasons. It'll get to at least 33 here, but they're 15 and they've split these 30 games now. You can think of, I mean, the Christmas game was insane. The double overtime game last year was insane. Obviously the playoff series, like when these this is just what these two teams are. And I think this is the current best rivalry in the NBA. And I'm not really sure it's all that close between any other matchup.
It's just every single game seems to have its own kind of unique quirks in a way. I mean, you have a lot of the same trends of Jokić versus Rudy, or the bench minutes, things like that, different runs, different swings, ant heroics. I mean, there's so many different directions it can go. And each team, I mean, the Wolves, they have their own weird tendencies that make it a lot more exciting. I think Denver's the same way, with the defense being shaky, the role players being incredibly volatile. I mean, Aaron Gordon is a perfect encapsulation of that. Of he can go for he can drill 10 threes, or he can be super quiet like he was in these first couple games. Same with guys like Tim Hardaway. Same with guys like even Jamal Murray sometimes. I mean, we even saw that in game 2. Jamal Murray can have these quarters where he's the best scorer in the NBA, and then he can have other moments where you're like, this guy needs a ball screen to do anything. So it's just I mean, we know that with knowing very well with the Wolves too. Guys like Julius Randle, guys like Rudy Gobert, they're different players quarter to quarter throughout a whole game. It just makes for a really fun battle.
Absolutely. And the start of this game I thought was just, you mentioned like the weird quirks of this matchup, and this is one of them, where the Wolves just get blitzed out at the beginning. I thought, I don't know if you saw before the game, Finch talked a lot about the officiating. And personally, I forgot to pull it up here, but like his main points are like, if you power through contact, you're not going to get the call. But if you tail away or more or less flop, you're far more often to get the call. And he finished out the first answer with like, we just have to be better, or maybe we also just have to start flopping. And my thing on that is like, he might be right. Probably is right. I don't understand why that was a talking point before game 2. Like, I just thought it's a terrible look to be talking about that at that point. And I get people, he wasn't the one, he didn't ask himself that question. Other people asked that question. And I get that. But like after the game, someone asked him basically the same exact question, and he immediately looks at him, more or less rolls his eyes and goes, next question. That's all you got to do. We're not talking about the officiating. And then it gets to the game, and I thought the officials just completely, it wasn't the officials' fault. I didn't think the Wolves let the officials totally take them out of their game. And so I don't put that at the feet of Finch, but like just kind of another, like, you just can't let the officials bother you. What did you see what Finch said, and what do you kind of think about all of that?
Yeah, it was tricky because I saw the quote, but I'm like, I need some context of seeing what he actually says here, because any sort of quote with the officials is just going to do numbers, especially after everything that happened with game 1. But I was in the same boat with you. Same good sentiment, right message, wrong time. I think that was the best way to put it. It's going to get more traction in the playoffs, but especially after you complain about Jamal Murray's fouls in the first game, everything that happened there. He has the history with SGA. I mean, Finch hasn't been afraid to call out the officials, and I think he has a good sentiment with, like, yes, it is nearly impossible to guard some of these players sometimes. You can't touch them. The inconsistencies of game 1 were really tricky. I mean, there was even moments in... It's just been really wonky. I mean, game 2 felt really wonky along the lines of that. There was one, like, 1 minute stretch where they just didn't call anything. That was super weird. Ant and Jokić had, like, a collision at half court, and they just kept playing. Seems like every time Valanciunas is out there, too, we know very well from watching Cat versus Valanciunas battles way back when, it's just gonna get weird. But I really thought it wasn't fully necessary, but especially like you said, just to detract and act like instantly shutting down the question in post game. I don't know. I'm not thinking about it too much, but I think there's been some weird inconsistencies in general with officiating, but at the same time, when you're down by 20 points in the first half, I think that should be the least of your worries. I mean, you gotta just play some good basketball.
Exactly. And they did not in the first quarter. And I rewatched the game this morning, and a couple things stood out. Ant was extraordinarily bad in the first quarter. Maybe that was the knee. I'm sure that's part of it, but there's just kind of too often, I thought, in the first half of game 1, similar stuff, like he's just getting lost off ball. His guy's getting wide open 3, back cuts, missed rotations, all of that. So Ant just not good enough defensively just in the first quarter of game 2. Thought he was either fine or good the rest of the game. And then like it did in the middle quarters of game 1, the ball movement was just totally sticky. Like just ISOs, bad possessions. And then to go back to Ant, unfair to lay everything at his feet, obviously, but like he's the best player, all that stuff. But like, and we'll talk about how this shifted for him later in the game. I just thought like they're loading up on him, and obviously to a certain extent he's got to drive through that, make plays through that. There's like just often simple passes that would have led to swing buckets. And so Denver goes on a 17-0 run to take a 15-point first quarter lead, and it bumps up to 19 points in the second quarter. And like I mentioned, the Wolves are able to save your season from there. But what did you see in that the first quarter that caused them to be down by so many points?
I mean, the broadcast did a good job of pointing out just how jump shot heavy it was, and we'll jump into that once we dive into the second quarter. But I think just getting paint touches and not attacking the paint, not attacking Jokić, not putting Denver in rotation, which is, they just played to everything that Denver can do positively defensively. They didn't really help themselves by just settling for jumpers, uh, keeping the ball in the middle of the court, not moving it around, not getting others involved. And like you said, it was a culmination of the two. I mean, Ant had multiple defensive. I think he had, I want to say, three separate defensive lapses. One was like a Cam Johnson miss off a pin down where he was just standing still. Another was a
Yep.
corner three for Christian Brown where Dante was guarding the initial drive and he got a better contest in the corner than Ant did.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then I believe there's the Randall one with the bounce pass to Gordon for the dunk where Randall was just kind of in no man's land. And I mean,
Yeah.
some of that still continued to linger. Ant had some more warts in the start of the second half, and Ant and Randall are just gonna have their lapses. I'm just accepting that at this point. They're gonna have their lapses off
For
the
sure.
ball at this point. But if anything, I think it's brought me back to credit the job that Jaden and Rudy can do, because there's such a clear difference within the Murray two-man game when they're on the court compared to off. But I think it was just the momentum of the offense being so stagnant. I mean, when you can allow Denver to get out and running a little bit more, let Christian Brown become more involved by being a transition run out player. I mean, even Tim Hardaway Jr. is a pretty solid transitional player for being 34 and very shooting dependent. But I think just there's so many guys on Denver that aren't going to beat you in the half court right now. And when you can allow them naturally to get out and running just by taking long shots, not crashing unnecessarily, things like that, you just play into their hand. I think it just goes to show how when you can get 90% of what we saw later throughout the game, how I think the drastic differences between the two really showed how much of an advantage they can have over Denver when they actually play how they're supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I mean, there's just going to be moments where it gets a little gross, I think, regardless. It's just going to be the reality.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to the whole regular season where it's like this team clearly has like an offensive ceiling when they can consistently through the course of games, weeks, months can just have the ball movement they have to have. And obviously every team's going to have bad stretches, but like just really at no point this season did that ball movement for more than a game or two really stick. And it's kind of one of those things where you're like, are they going to ever find that? If they never found it during the regular season, why would we think that they would find it during the playoffs? And obviously, the splitting of the first two games is a success for the Wolves, but also like it kind of stands out as like another inconsistency of ball movement. But like I said, ultimately they do get this game too, and if you would have told us before the series that they split the first two games, I think everyone goes and you take that and move on. And the biggest reason was the second quarter of game two, what ends up saving their season, in my opinion. And Anthony Edwards in this quarter was just phenomenal. And it was the first time I wrote in my recap yesterday it was the first time that Anthony Edwards we'd seen the actual real Anthony Edwards for the first time in the entire series. And obviously the caveats with the knee and all that stuff, but the knee's not getting better. This is what it is. It's probably more likely to get worse. Maybe it won't, like, we don't know, but like, this is the version of the Ant we're getting in this series. And he was really good in this series. It wasn't just like he drove on the paint like they need him to, hit a couple tough layups and tough shots. But he just made the simple pass against a shifted defense. They are rightly so. Just they got five defenders just staring at him. And the rest of this game, but especially in the second quarter, when he got two on the ball, he just made the simple pass. And usually it gets to the guy in the corner who either, if Denver doesn't get out there properly, has a wide open three, or if they do, it's a closeout where it's an easily, you drive right around him and either and then you get either the dunk or there's another rotation, you get a wide open three on the back end. Like everything, the whole offense starts to move when Ant makes that first initial pass. And he's still going to get his. Sometimes the ball will even come back to him on those possessions. And obviously the minute you have Anthony Edwards and they're not loading up on him because of the rotations from earlier in the play, then he is able to just get easy buckets, whether it's threes or layups or whatever. So I thought that was the biggest thing, is Ant was the biggest change from one quarter to another, making the easy pass.
Yeah, there was a couple possessions where they just had him in empty side corner doing whatever they could to isolate him over. I think the empty side stuff is almost going to be better than a lot of the middle of the floor stuff for Ant. Just the way the gap help teams play on him is just absurd at this point. I mean,
Yep.
we saw it on the Dante 3 in the fourth quarter where they were just completely neglecting Dante in the corner because they were so worried about Ant.
Which
I mean,
is a
it's
mistake.
the same. Yeah. It's the same way with Randall too. I mean, that's when Randall's the. Do I love his mid post ups left side? Like, they're all right for scoring, but so much of it is he makes that extra pass out. You can get the ball whipping around. I mean, Ant had multiple where he was in the right corner and he was able just to make a simple pass. I think Bones had a 3 off one. Nas was able to attack a closeout in the corner and get an and one finish on another. And it was just, I think the really important thing was that this second quarter run was able to start with Rudy on the court, but it was able to continue once they were able to flow in with Nas. And this team is, I wish they had more lineup flexibility. I think it's just the reality of a Rudy team. It's going to be kind of yin and yang. But I think the fact that they were able to start this run without Rudy, but then also showcase as much firepower as they could with their more spaced out unit where they were able to get more downhill. This is when you really started to see some concerns with Jokic's rim protection where I mean, the best way to describe it is that gif of the little security guy just letting guys through real quick. That's what I think about every time because it's just all hands. There's not much. Ant missed a layup too when he was just jumping around Jokic. He just kind of stands there and tries to be large. Like, if you're going to be trying to pass in traffic against Jokic, he could deflect a lot of passes. He does a great job with that. But I mean, when you have him isolated, and there's one possession where Ant had a really nice finish around Aaron Gordon at the rim, but the whole gist of it was Jokic was playing up towards the level and Ant just zoomed by him. As simple as that. And when you play with pace too, it's such a big advantage because Jokic tends to linger behind. And I saw some stats about Jokic fared well, I guess, at the rim. He had a lot of like quote unquote stops because people missed. But when you're allowing that sheer volume of attempts at the rim and said makes don't really have much resistance, I think it's gonna be a big concern. And the Wolves would just be foolish to not continue to attack that. The extra layer in that is the Valanciunas minutes were terrible in the second quarter there. That really helped the Wolves out. I mean, anytime you can take advantage of Jokic being off the court, it's fantastic advantage because Valanciunas in the playoffs just isn't the best of options.
Yeah, the one good thing Valanciunas did do from a Denver perspective is he got a couple fouls on Rudy. So maybe that even just made it worth it right there. But yeah, the difference between games 1, game 2, Wolves lost the non-Jokic minutes in game 1, and they won them, especially in the first stint of them in the second quarter. I want to talk to you about Rudy on offense because I thought these two games are very interesting to me. And I know you do a lot of good breakdowns on your social accounts, kind of watching film review of games. I thought after game 1 that if the Wolves are going to win this series, or even like any game, the Rudy Gobert involvement on offense was going to have to stick. And I think I'm wrong because they won a game where Rudy Gobert in the flow of the offense had 0 points. He had 2 points the whole game, and it was a putback dunk late in the game, a gigantic
Beautiful
play.
one.
Yeah. And on that, Jokić flopping a couple minutes earlier than that on that what ended up being called an offensive foul. I think basketball gods rightly decided who won the game after that. That was garbage.
Yeah.
Like stop flopping, man. You're 300 pounds. You're one of the best players in the history of the. Stop flopping. Like that play is holy cow. And so on that rebound, he didn't flop on that, but like you got bodied by Rudy. Maybe it's technically a foul, but like let's play ball. Like if you don't like get box Rudy out of the paint if you don't want him to push you in the back. Like that's kind of where I'm at with that. But going back to my diatribe aside, going back to Rudy on offense, do you think that they have to? Because I thought that was also a big thing about the game one, and maybe there was a Denver defensive shift I didn't necessarily see, but like I continue to believe Rudy in the short roll is a positive like action for this team when guys are just they're bringing two to the ball on Ant, and we didn't see it in game two, and I think the reason they came back kind of was Rudy going to the bench, and that spark plugged their offense. And that doesn't mean you still have that's kind of the yin and yang of the series, because you also can't sit Rudy, because watch the fourth quarter. They don't win that fourth quarter without Rudy, because at the end of the third quarter, Jokić was just the Wolves had no one to guard him, and he was just going right to the rim. So I guess what do you think about Rudy on offense? Do they continue to need to get the ball to him in that way, or what are your thoughts?
I think some of the inherited advantages are. It seemed like Denver was really adamant on tagging him when he was rolling. I mean, there was a lot of really good advantages the Wolves created out of the opposite corner just from roller gravity. Like, I believe the Bones Highland left wing 3 where he had Io wide open in the corner too, and also there was just other examples where he simply just got tagged when he might have not needed to be, especially when Denver's going to more switchier looks or playing Jokić a little bit higher up. I think that's honestly the best way Rudy can be utilized, because you don't. It's tricky because you can't utilize him that way. It's all dependent on how the defense reacts. But I think that's the best result you can have, because he doesn't need to get the ball, but players are still respecting him enough to where he's making them react. It's a culmination of Ant needing to make the extra pass, but also the other team. It's like a very specific result. But I think Denver would be wise to force Rudy to make a couple more short roll passes and force that pass, because we've seen that battle in itself, especially like the Dallas series. Seeing Rudy, there's clear flaws within the ceiling of the offense when you can make Rudy get more involved. But I just think you're never going to be able to control that pace. It's all going to be very dependent on how the defense reacts. So I think it's more of like how does Denver decide to pay attention to Rudy's offense? Because you get those weird Rudy post-ups that happen. We've had, who knows if it makes its way to the playoffs, but we've had some really wild Rudy self-created drives off the dribble when they're just working like DHOs up top, which have been, they've had some success, but you don't want that to be your offense in the playoffs. I think it's just surviving the best you can when he's out there and making sure you can find ways to be creative. I mean, any way you can create quick decisions and get the offense in rotation, I think is going to be the best way to just find Rudy some way or another, even if it's just getting someone out of the paint. It's tricky. The Rudy offense and playoffs and in context of all that is a continuous cycle in my mind as long as he's been in a Wolves jersey. It's tough.
Yeah, and they've obviously proved they can win big time playoff series with Rudy Gobert on the court for large stretches. I just think the more the series goes on, I just believe like that at least on the offensive end is going to be like if they win this series, they're going to have to figure out how to not let the offense die when Rudy Gobert is on the court. Not because I think that's their best offensive lineup, but it's because it's the only lineup defensively that they got any shot of slowing down Jokic. This is not like the Lakers series. Obviously, Rudy, the Game 5 last year against the Lakers series was awesome, but like this is not like the Warriors series or Lakers series where you can like take Rudy off the court to try to generate more offense. I thought that was a good thing to see at the end of Game 1, where Finch oftentimes is like, okay, we're down, let's bring on Rudy, or let's take Rudy off to try to generate offense. That's been what they've done all year. And they didn't do it in Game 1, even when they were down, because I think there's an understanding of like, that's not going to be a positive switch. And obviously they got forced into it with the foul trouble in Game 2, and that's great. And they can still they can still like try to outscore Denver lineups without Rudy. But like ultimately, I mean, especially down the stretch of the game, we'll see it down the stretch of this game where Rudy Gobert he's just awesome on Jokic. But they need to keep him on the court. So I think watching that, and like you mentioned, it's been a cycle for a lot of this last 4 seasons, but they're going to need to try to find him more on offense, or just the ball movement at the very least needs to keep moving.
Yeah, I mean, that's been the good advantage of the Gobert era, is they've had a lot of toggle points within their big man grouping, whether that's even just Randall with Rudy or Nas with Rudy, or even if you want to toggle Jaden to the 4 and load up with guards, if you want to play some more IO, play some more Bones. I mean, the adjustments are a bit wonky, but I think there's at least some buttons they can push within all that, which makes me feel a little more comfortable. And especially just given the matchup, Denver's defense is shaky as is, and Aaron Gordon clearly isn't at 100%. So I think just continuing to try to be creative within any way they can find ways to consistently get the offense churning when Rudy's on the court. And I mean, the dude is just selfless. I mean, it was a perfect encapsulation of the impact of Rudy in this one, if you look at the box score compared to if you watch the game. And honestly, the foul trouble was kind of an advantage in this one. I mean, him being forced to go to the bench really sparked that run. And then we saw in the fourth quarter later, Rudy with fresh legs when Jokic was just exhausted was such a fantastic advantage. And the fact that the Wolves are able to still survive, like the Nas on Jokic minutes have been, yeah. That was not my favorite little adjustment there. I think Randall's going to be the best advantage there, because when Randall's one-on-one against a physical player, that's going to be when he's at his best defensively. But I think just letting Rudy play more aggressively defensively, because if he makes those fouls, you have those issues. As long as you have him fresh for the end of the game and it doesn't completely hinder the defense when he's off, I think it almost plays to your advantage in these kind of series when you need offense more consistently. You don't want Rudy playing 40 minutes per game.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about down the stretch of the game with Rudy a little bit more, because that's as good as defense as you'll see on Nikola Jokic out there. I think a lot of us had Game 5 of 2 seasons ago in our mind, where Jokic puts together, I mean, probably like one of the best playoff performances in the last X number of years at all. And I think people got a little bit too out in front of their skis on like Rudy can't guard Jokic, which they kind of do that with everyone. Rudy can't guard X player. Like it's always the same crap. But in this one, Jokic 1 of 8 down the stretch of the game. Jaden on Jamal Murray was awesome too. He was 1 of 5. Like Denver's not going to win many games when they're their duo there shoot 2 of 12 or 2 of 13. 2 of 12, 2 of 12. Jokić was 1 of 7, not 1 of 8. Yeah, I thought Rudy did exactly what you had to do on Jokić, and he missed a couple shots that he probably normally makes there as well. But yeah, at the very least, through 2 games, it's very clear like the defensive strategy they had 2 years ago of having Rudy lurch. Part of that is Gordon can shoot really well now, so you can't really do that as much. But like certainly, we are very confident the best defensive scheme the Wolves can do is just throw their best defensive player on Denver's best offensive player.
Even if they mix in some like Rudy on Christian Brown, it could be interesting.
He's been shooting pretty well in this series.
He has no doubt. I don't know. I think the Wolves are definitely in the driver's seat with more defensive adjustments, which feels really good at this point. I mean, the fact that they've been able to, even in that fourth quarter there in game 2, the fact that they were able to strictly rely on, some of it's just the Finch schematics too. They don't play a ton of gap help. They really like to just rely on Rudy drop and playing from there. But the fact that they were able to fully rely on Jaden and Rudy to completely neutralize the 2-man game between Jokić and Murray, which seems automatic at times, the way Murray is able to just dance in the mid-range, and Rudy and Jokic's ability to read and pop and space out the floor and make Rudy make a decision. I think that was really the big I mean, there were some misses, like you said, like Jokić had a couple airball threes. There's still even a couple. It's tricky when analyzing Jokić misses in this game because some of them are still shots that he can make, which is like just absurd in itself. But I think that the idea of being able to neutralize these 2 players completely in the fourth quarter isn't going to always happen, but the fact that you can rely on Jaden and Rudy to hold their ground while others can just completely stick to their man is, I think, my big takeaway. Like, there haven't been any moments in this series where I've been scared of Aaron Gordon, Cam Johnson, Christian Brown. Like, when they make a shot, for the most part, you just say to yourself, I can live with that. Because a lot of it's going to be created off the others. I mean, that's going to be the whole core of the offense is these 2 players. And when you can turn it into a 2v2 game and you have the advantage defensively, it's going to give you such a good push.
Yeah, I think you made a really good point of like they can guard those guys well without needing to send a double or even like hedge on whatever. Like they can just guard it 1-on-1, 2-on-2, and largely do a really good job there. And I'm sure there will be a game in this series down the road that will go, well, they that's not necessarily true. Look, they torched them. I'm sure that'll happen. But it allows them like you just hey, Cam Johnson 1 of 6 from 3, Aaron Gordon 1 of 4 from 3 in this game too. Like the Wolves they don't have to, because the minute you start sending doubles at Jokić, I just think it's like
there weren't. I can't think of any like strong standouts of like kick out, catch and shoot opportunities for these players in this one.
Yeah, aside from the first quarter, but that was just breakdown city. Like that wasn't schematic or whatever. Yeah, it was awesome to see that. Like I mentioned, like game 5 was always the worry that like they would just get torched, and they didn't. The Murray jump shot with down 3 long 2 with a couple seconds left was that made no sense to me, because like even if I don't know, that was weird. It's been interesting to see, like they just looked like gassed down the stretch of the game. Jokić and Murray did, and I just wonder like obviously their best action on any given play is running a 2-man action, a pick and roll with those 2 guys, but like there is like a finite number of times you can run that. And so when you don't have really any other offense, like they don't have they don't have any, like literally almost zero self-creation offense aside from those two guys. So if the Wolves aren't turning the ball over, 12 times in this game is fine. When the Wolves aren't turning the ball over, like there's just they don't have anything other than those two guys really. So when they have to rely on them so heavily, it's not surprising when they get tired. And that's probably another reason, like defensively, to continue to go at both of them, especially Jokić, like tire them out, get down to the end of these games, and they might just be gassed. And I don't, off-season podcast discussion would be like, why? It seems like it's this way every year with Denver. I guess maybe that's the biggest change from this Denver team to last year and 2 years ago is Michael Porter Jr. was a guy, flawed as he is, that could generate some offense more on his own than any of these guys. And last year, especially not against the Wolves, but like you could see similar to certain guys on the Wolves, like his shoulder was just like toast. Like he just did. And the fact that with his injury and the flawed or the short roster that they had last year, that they were able to get within a game of the Western Conference Finals was incredibly impressive. But yeah, while the Cam Johnson trade, like financially or whatever, is like an obvious win for them, and maybe you could even argue just how he fits with the roster, but like that's the biggest thing, that they just do not have any offensive creation behind those two guys, and they're human. Like they're gonna run out of steam.
Yeah, it's all fun and games making that trade and adding Valanciunas and Bruce Brown to bolster your regular season rotation until the playoffs hit. I mean, Bruce Brown had the 2 threes in the fourth quarter, but I'm like, I can live with those shots. That's perfectly fine with me. And he is just a extremely volatile player. My goodness. But it like Aaron Gordon, I'm sure, has some more juice, and it's something they could tap into. But
healthy
I just
Aaron
don't
Gordon,
think
healthy Aaron Gordon does. Is that who this is? Like,
no.
And
your second best option within it is Murray setting a inverted screen for Jokić. It's just you're flipping the script. That's their second best option. Is literally the exact same thing.
Their best option is just the same action flipped. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Or maybe like running, I don't know. You can only run Tim Hardaway Jr. centric offense so much. Like I really love those handoffs they do with Jokić and spiraling guys around, but it's like, do you really want to rely on Tim Hardaway Jr.? No.
Yeah. And probably important to point out that they are missing Peyton Watson. It seems like in this whole series, but obviously through the first 2 games. And maybe when Jokić was out, Peyton Watson provided a lot of that extra offensive, and it was the reason why their season did not fall apart, or their record did not fall apart when Jokić got hurt, was Peyton Watson. So it's probably important to point out that they don't have him in this series. We'll see if he's able to come back and impact it. But through 2 games, it seems like they're just the Nuggets are going to win this series. It's going to be on the backs of their top 2 guys, which obviously there's a like that. For every other team. Yeah, for every other team that would be like a death sentence, and for these guys, it's like, okay, yeah, they're still in an all right spot. Let's talk about what Jaden said after the game. I have to believe you saw it.
Of course,
he called their entire roster bad defenders. I don't remember what order he went in, but he's like Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokić, Cameron Johnson, Bruce Brown, Aaron Gordon. They're all bad defenders. And aside from Gordon, I would probably tend to agree with him. I did notice he didn't say Christian Braun. And I think I saw someone be like, "Oh, I must think Christian Braun is a good defender." I'm like, "No, this is the Mad Men meme. Like, I don't think about you at all. I think that's what, like, he didn't say Christian Braun because Christian Braun is not in his head." And I think the reaction has been like, "Why would you say that?" And my thing interacting with Jaden a little bit is like, because he believes it.
This is just another day for Jaden.
Yeah, like he doesn't care. Like, oh, they're gonna. Well, my thing would be, and this is, the Nuggets haven't said this or whatever, but like, oh, this is motivation. It's the goddamn playoffs. If Jaden
If
McDaniel's
that's
saying
the
crap, and then
motivation it
if that's
takes, then
if
okay.
that's then wrap it up. Then wrap up the
Yeah.
whole team. Wrap it up. Like, then it's done. Like, you have nothing. If Jaden McDaniels with his hoodie on, like Darth freaking Vader, if that's what you need to motivate you, then good luck. Then if you win the series, Wemby's gonna start, like, you got no shot against that 7'6" French dude. I just they're not. Jaden very clearly is not scared of that. Not scared of what the Nuggets have. They're not scared of the repercussions of what he said. He said it because he believes it, and that's it. He thinks they suck. He does not on the court respect them as a team. He just doesn't, and you see it with these certain teams. The man, I don't know. I kind of don't know why. He does not like Devin Booker very much at all, and these guys on the court, and maybe it kind of started when they did start to embellish some calls a little bit. Jaden's just done with it.
Yeah, and like you said, like, this isn't, if you've been following the Wolves close enough, there's been random, I think he had some crazy stray for the Kings a while back. There's been, this is nothing new in the
The
mind
dude's
of
a
Jaden
psychopath.
McDaniels.
The dude is a basketball psychopath, and that is a compliment.
Absolutely. And I just find it funny, the reaction to it, because you see so much all this dialogue about players being soft, players not, it's not how it used to be, and then
Sure.
someone actually does this, and then it's a big issue. So shout out to Jaden for fueling that fire, because it's only going to make this series more exciting. And just the whole delivery with the hoodie on, deadpan delivery, no hesitation at all in between names, was incredible. It's, you can't write it up better than that. Adding that context into the, adding the fuel to the fire on both sides.
Yeah, I this is very important. I should correct myself. I said like Darth Vader. Palpatine is probably the better. I don't know if you're Star Wars guy. Palpatine's probably the better comparison there with the hoodie on or whatever. We'll see if he can have his unlimited power moment or whatever, to torture the Star Wars metaphor here. But yeah, I mean, maybe it ends up being a bad thing. Maybe they turn it up defensively. What I do think will happen is they'll have a good offensive game, Denver will, and they'll win whatever next game they win. And people will be like, see, it's like, he called out their defense. Like that, I can guarantee you that's going to happen. Oh, he made him pay. It's like,
pretty easy layup is calling out the Denver defense. I mean, anyone can do that.
Like, and it's kind of an indictment on the Wolves' first game. Like, why are you struggling so much against the 21st ranked defense here? Yeah, the biggest thing is, like, you just have to continue to attack the paint. You have to put pressure on them. You have to, like, obviously take open threes, generate open threes is great, but like, continue to get to the rim. I thought like Jaden did that better in this one. Nas had a solid game offensively, getting to the rim, drawing fouls on Jokić and Valanciunas. Like that's where it is. And I don't know how much, I still kind of believe that like they're going to need like a supernova Ant performance to really win this series. And the question there, I don't know if he can provide that. His box scores haven't been great through 2 games. He'll tell you that. He called them, I think he said, straight ass after the game. I'll say that the post game with Julius and Ant was kind of an all timer. I'm sure it's up on the Wolves YouTube page. Go watch that thing.
Postseason pressers with his team have always been fantastic.
Yeah, it's in the same exact spot. Same exact spot as Ant or as Cat going, how much you want us to lose after game 7? It's the same exact table, same exact seats. Ant was asked like, what, like he had a bunch of cool, really nice blocks. Why kind of asked, why doesn't the knee bother you? And he goes, I'm watching Dwayne Wade clips to try to get better or try to, yeah. And he goes, I'm just trying to beat that shit at the rim. He said that multiple times. And I was chuckling to myself because I dropped an F-bomb somewhere in there too. And the PR guy standing off to the side is just like, no, gosh, because he's probably going to get fined. He's like, God, like, damn it. So yeah, just an all-timer. another all-timer press conference from Ant out in Denver.
Yeah, I just love that he's watching Dwayne Wade block highlights because that's quality entertainment right there. Best shot blocking guard of all time, I'd have to say.
Or I was gonna say best Ant comp, this, like, just in terms of game, probably at this point in their careers.
Oh, no doubt. It was a hell of a presser. It really was. I think seeing that defensive energy is when, like, Ant is going to have his off-ball lapses. That is what's going to be ingrained in his game. But when he can find those instances where he can affect and be a playmaker of a sense, whether that's, he had like a nice steal on a Jamal Murray kick out that was short. I mean, little plays like that where if you can get anything like that to change the game, I'm going to live with, I think it's going to have its inverse opportunity on the other end. It's going to balance itself out at the end of the day. It is the offense that is going to be tricky. I think the most difficult part for me to analyze Ant in these playoffs is how much we expect from him at this point in the playoffs because of his prior performances. Like, the average Ant playoff performance is an incredible game. I mean, even I'm just gonna be live with some of these middling games because of the knee, but also it goes to show seasons past how incredible his scoring was and how far it can carry them. But yeah, we'll see. I think it's just a balance of not becoming too jumper reliant, not becoming too rim reliant, which is just like any other game. It's as simple as that. Because you obviously need the 3-point volume. It's going to be the big part of his game, but you don't want to see him settling. I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, and especially like late in clock, like Ant step back three is as good as you're going to get in like just a scramble offensive situation. I thought that was a big difference between games 1 and 2, is just settled far too often for the three, and he was 3-11 in game 2, so it's not like he was great in that area either. And I think just watching him a little bit, it does look like, I think the base of his shot in that knee is a part of the reason he hasn't shot well from deep in this series. Just watching him live a little bit. But yeah, I think you just, from expectation standpoint, I think you just have to take it game by game with him. He's gonna, like, I know they're labeling him questionable before the games, but like, come on, like, I mean, obviously, if he misses a game, that's an incredibly bad sign. But I think you just take it game by game. If it ends up costing them a game, his injury ends up costing them a game, a series, we'll all come back in the off season and talk about the ramifications of that. But for now, I think you're taking it game by game with him. He's through 2 games shown he can provide positive minutes, obviously, like still be their best player in a game 2 win. But yeah, it's hard to know where he's at physically. And I think the good and the bad thing about this runner's knee that he's got is the recovery isn't linear. I don't think there's a sense that it could get better, but like, it could get less worse, maybe, if that makes sense. But the downside is maybe it flares up more than you wanted to. So it's something to monitor. But let's talk about game 3 very quickly. I guess, is there, most of our game 3 preview, you can just, like, it's the same reactions to game 2. Was there anything that you felt like would be important in game 3 that we didn't necessarily talk about so far?
I think just seeing if Chris Finch elects to structure a lot of the minutes similar to what we saw in game 2, I think is something that could be interesting, because I mean, his hand was kind of pushed with Rudy's foul trouble, and he could have still played Rudy very well. But I think, are we going to see Rudy, let's say Rudy has no foul trouble, are we going to see 36 minutes out of Rudy, or are we going to see 30 minutes? Just seeing where that lands. Randall usage is always going to be really fascinating, because it's hard to pinpoint because you clearly need someone else to pick up a little more shot creation duties outside of Ant, but it's like how much Randall do you really want to get to? Especially when we've seen when this offense has been at its best this series, like it was in the second quarter, it's when there's quick decisions being made. So I think a good way to do that is I'm always pro any way you can make Julius Randle a quick decision maker is always good with me. And I think that might just be simple as getting him those mid post touches because Denver is clearly going to be selling out on sending pressure, and that's going to force Randall to get the ball out of his hands. So I just think there's some inherent advantages there where I think they can get Randall going a little bit more and let him still play his game, but also give Ant a little bit of a rest from having to do everything. And I think just the good thing about it is we've seen others become involved within this. I mean, Jaden gets his occasional reps, but he's been able to be a solid play finisher. Dante's been really good this series so far. Part of it's the timeliness of the shots, I think has been a really crucial part, but also being able to just get to some secondary actions, and as long as he's not shooting inside the arc, I'm happy. Or contested at the rim. Dante does not need to be shooting at the rim. That is the one guy. But I think another inherent advantage is Jaden getting to the rim, I think is a really big part too. Even if it's a little turnaround, short mid range, I think they can mix in some more pick and roll reps for Jaden, or even if I love Jaden as a roller when they can mix it in too. That is always really fun. I think, I don't know, it might be a little bit easier to simulate Jaden getting to the rim than Randall, but I at least think there's a couple more toggle points of where they can lean into that a little bit more, but also let Ant do what he needs to do to balance.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess I should have mentioned this earlier. I thought Chris Finch was awesome in this game too. Obviously, I would say I've said this before, but like coaches can have bad seasons just like players can. Obviously, it's a lot less volatile, but I would think, especially the regular season. I think Chris Finch did not have a good regular season. There was things like that didn't go well for him, and that doesn't mean he's a bad coach, and it doesn't mean that next year or in these playoffs, like that's just how it goes. That's just, and even it's just my opinion. But I thought he was awesome in this game too. Rudy Gobert picking up the fouls, just threw everything in a blender, and I thought he did exactly what had to be done. Kyle Anderson plays 5 minutes. The Wolves win those 5 minutes by 3 points. He has a pair of assists, an ugly looking floater that didn't go in. Mike Conley plays 4 minutes, gets 2 assists. They win his minutes by 1. And then Bones they don't win this game without 13 points from Bones Highland. Obviously, he has a couple bad fouls, including one of those and ones we talked about, but he hits 3 threes. Gets a leak out bucket as like the game was potentially slipping away, right after the Denver 17-0 run is when Bones hit a bunch of shots, kept them in it. Kind of similar to Game 7 where Cat is their leading scorer for most of the game and keeps them in a game where everyone else is playing like crap in that first half. Bones' shot making kept them in it, and I think that's something for Game 3 to watch. Is like how much I think maybe they'll keep playing 10 guys, or 10 guys are eligible for minutes, I would say. Like that's what we've seen these first 2 games. But like what combination of, because like Nas and I were going to play the bulk of the minutes off the bench. What combination of Slow-Mo, Mike Conley, and Bones get those minutes? And I think it's dependent on, hopefully there's a second matchup for the Wolves after this. It's dependent on matchup, and it's dependent on just who's got it. And I thought like Bones just didn't have it in Game 1, missed a couple layups. And he, at least on offense, he had it in Game 2. So that's kind of like not a key to the series, but it's something aside from the headlines that we've talked about the past 50 minutes, like that's kind of the little stuff I'm interested in. But Jonah, anything to plug with your work covering the team? What have you got this week?
I'm gonna have a Game 3 recap, so we'll see after that. But just follow me on all socials. That's going to be the majority of my stuff. Huncho_Jman on Twitter. And then same thing, no underscore on Blue Sky. Same stuff. Lots of film. Probably going to watch this. I've been trying to watch these games as much as I can because the playoffs are just so fun. But trying to diversify between fun stuff, film, anything I can get to. That's going to be the best spot to follow me. And it's just every time the playoffs roll around, I have so much fun with whether that's press conferences, whether that is recognizing trends game to game. I mean, sometimes I feel like a true sicko for overanalyzing some regular season games. And once the playoffs get here, it's just
that's
throwing out as much content as possible. It's a great time. So hit me over there.
Yeah, absolutely. Read Zo coverage, the whole site, but Jonah here for coming on with me. And I know I like to, like you mentioned, I like to rewatch these games, especially the playoff games. I wish I don't do this full time like you don't do this full time. I wish every regular season, not every, there's some games that aren't worth a rewatch, but I wish I had more time to rewatch this stuff. So if you're like me, like that, Jonah's socials are a good way to kind of, if you're looking for a quicker way to do that, go look at, he'll clip up the most interesting plays or the funniest, but whatever he's got over there. Go look at Jonah's stuff. But yeah, I'll be back in some form after game 3. We'll see if I decide to do some sort of late because we got, let me check the time. What is it?
I think it's I'm 9:30.
Yeah, I messed up the time zones. I've been in Mountain Time prior to this, so I'm so 8:30 p.m. Central on Thursday. So let's see. I don't know if I'll do a late ass after the post game stuff.
It's a long night.
Some sort of podcast will be up after game 3. But until then, that's Jonah. I'm Ryan. Thank you everyone for listening. Go Wolves.